You are listening to the People Centric Podcast, where we talk through the toughest challenges that people face at work and give practical advice to fixing those challenges. Thanks for joining our movement to create workplaces that are happier, healthier, aligned, and empowered by putting people at the center of all that we do.
Hey, people-centric leaders, we are back with another episode here, another podcast episode. Before we start, I would just like to say thank you. Thank you for being loyal for nearly 200 episodes that are out there right now. I'm sure that you've listened to them all, maybe twice, and have maybe taken notes frivolously over all of the concepts that we've been going through. You've probably just grown exponentially as a leader, just impacting your organization. Feel free to share that with your organization's leaders about how impactful this people-centric podcast has been for you. Tongue-in-cheek, kinda. Anyway, we're thankful for you. We're happy to bring you another topic, and I'm going to set the stage here with a business story, but then also a personal story to really drive home the point. You know, we as people-centric talk about what winning looks like overall, organizationally, we have to determine what winning looks like. And now I know when I say that, you're probably thinking about, yes, big picture vision, big objectives and goals. And we've talked about this quite a bit from like a strategic planning perspective. We have to put some goals and objectives out there, but then we need to filter the goals and objectives out to our people, and then they'll know the objectives, and then they are going to grab a hold of those things and help us achieve greatness because I told them what the objectives are. You know, that's only part of the secret sauce. And there's a whole another side to this. I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. Recently, we were working with a hospital, and this is true. I don't know. It's probably good to remind everybody. We are a consulting group. We don't just do podcasts. We're not just famous podcasters, right? We actually work with organizations in all types of industries. We do quite a bit in healthcare. One of the hospitals we worked with recently, they are killing it. They are succeeding. They are killing it. They are in growth mode, right? They are not only in growth mode, they're in expansion, market share, footprint, all that stuff. Like they are trying to take over the region, and this is that's great. They're in growth mode. The CEO, to hear him talk about it, is like, yeah, we can acquire this building, we can build this building, we can add these services, which is exciting. And if I'm an executive or a part of the board or part of the executive team, that's probably pretty exciting. Let me share this experience, though, that happened recently. They were talking about growing and adding another building or maybe a couple of other buildings in a couple of different areas. And the COO raised her hand and she said, I like it that we're growing. It was almost like, I like it. However, I need you to consider something else. And what her thought was, I like it that we grow. Here's the thing that keeps me up at night with growth, though. The thing that keeps me up at night with growth is once we build that building, it's going to fall onto me to actually staff the building and make sure that the building runs. Where you might be able to just build another building and then, good, I'm going to go build another building. That then has this trickle-down effect. It kind of reminds you of this idea that, and this is, I don't want to shatter some dreams, but not everybody cares about the same things that you care about. This is true in life. This is true in business. Not everybody cares about the same things that you care about or as much as you care about the things. Just because you told them and just because you're the boss does not mean they are going to instantly grab a hold of that. So we might be able to create big picture winning, but how do I then understand what winning to an individual might look like too? And we're going to discuss that and why that's important. On a personal note, I just have to say, I'm an open book. And one of the things that I really want right now, a generator. And there's a story behind why I want a generator, but I want a generator. But there's so many different types of generators. There's generators and inverters and what size do I want and what size do I think I need? Am I buying a size for now or am I buying a size for the future? Like I have so many questions. And my wife, she's like, okay, fine. Yeah, let's look for a generator. But I don't really feel her charging behind this effort with me, right? I'm pouring over YouTube videos and Google reviews, and I'm asking people who have generated, true story, asking people, what do you like about that one? What don't you like about that one? Like I am knee deep in the generator conversation, and I don't feel super supported, even though I know that she will be thankful and happy that we have the generator later. And I think this is it's one of those concepts that's true in life. Again, not everybody cares as much about the thing that you care about. Even though you've said it, people get behind their own things and their own projects there. And so we're going to talk about, yes, winning is important organizationally, but why it's important to also understand what winning looks like to the individuals that you are hoping will help you achieve the organizational greatness. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I am joined by a couple of other folks of people that if you've been a listener to the podcast, then these are folks that you know. First of all, Diana Royalty. Diana, you're back in your home office. I can say that you've been in different parts of the house recently, based out of the greater Seattle area there, but you're back in your home office. How's it feel like to have your world turned upside down, but then also kind
Man,
of
I tell you what, we did
place?
a big home renovation. So like redid our dining room and redid our kitchen. And so like my kitchen was in my dining room was in my office. It's been a total mess. And so I was working out of like the porch, and sometimes I was working in the car, and sometimes I was working in my bedroom. It's been very loud and very noisy. And my home office still is like, I'm showing you guys, is still filled with stuff behind me. But the couch and the desk area is clean enough for me to work at. So that's what I'm doing. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
doing.
yeah. If you follow
Yeah.
us on YouTube, you can see a YouTube video there of the picture still on the floor, not on the wall,
Yeah,
and
just
like
kind
that.
of
So
everywhere. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you, Diana. Philip, this talk about winning in your own role. Do you have like a quick thought about just give us like the top thing, what winning looks like in your role?
Ooh, quick thought. There's so many ways to win, so many balls to balance and to catch and juggle. No, I would
Uh-huh.
say for us as our team, winning is that, that we're going in the same direction. So we like all have a pretty good idea of where our clients are at, how we're taking them there. And then the second part, I just like enjoying working with our clients. So I like to see how they grow, like learn their awesome skills, and then also just dig into the places where they also agree we want to work and make a difference in, and then making that difference with them, and making it move forward. That is my favorite way of winning at People Centric.
I approve of this message. I approve of this
I was
message.
just off the cuff. I didn't even know. Yeah, I was thinking,
Yeah.
wow, my home projects. I need to paint some stuff and fix some trim.
Yeah.
Well, and that's so great because Philip earlier before, I think Matt, you stepped away for a second. We were talking about this. Philip was like, Diana, what does winning look like in your role? And Philip and I have totally different answers. I mean, just like, I don't think about the clients all that much, like that's Philip's job, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool that I have a different version of winning, but we're still all kind of doing it together. This is a good concept for us to talk about.
Different versions of winning, which lead to the overall
Yeah.
success of the team and the group. Everybody kind of has their own roles. And again, this is not that's not an earth-shattering concept. What might be earth-shattering to you is why you have to care. If I'm a manager or a business owner or whatever, why do I have to care about the individual's goals? It's not about the individual, it's about the team. But we're going to make a case for why it's important and why it is no. Understanding the goals of the individuals and what fuels them to want to win will help you achieve the overall success that you're trying to shoot for as an organization. So let's start big picture, just to tie a bow on it. We've done this kind of talk before, but just to tie a bow on it, why is it important to understand what winning looks like as an organization? I'll throw that to anybody, and we can just kind of tie a bow on that whole conversation there. Why is it important to understand what winning looks like organizationally speaking?
You got to have the strategic goals so that you know where you're going, right? You have to know where people are headed, and you got to point them all in the same direction. And that may look like revenue, that may look like reduced turnover, that may look like satisfaction scores. It doesn't matter, but everyone's got to be like geared towards something.
Yeah, and you talk about this, and and Philip, I'll come right to you. You talk about this, and there's a right way and a wrong way to kind of portray that. We'll get into that too. But Philip, what were you going to add?
I was going to add my Ozarks answer. Have you ever canoed with five people and only three paddles, and no one knew which way you were going? That is why you need a strategic plan, right? Because it's like everyone's putting in work, everyone's trying to figure stuff out. If you don't have a paddle, you'll use your hand, but you tip over real quick and y'all get wet. It might be fun, but you don't get anywhere. That's what a strategic plan is for.
I was thinking more of the illustration of the canoeing, and we are giving our Ozarkian away right now, but of the canoeing where there's one person doing this work on both sides, and then they
Oh,
have the other person lounged up with the
oh,
cooler, and their legs are kicked up, and they're
the
just like,
worst.
I don't even care which direction we're going, man. Like whatever, wherever you want to take us. This is great. This is great. And we have that too. We have that concept too. Maybe if you haven't experienced that, come see us. Maybe we can share that experience
Yeah,
with
that
you.
really speaks to role clarity and strategic planning, both of which we specialize in.
Yeah, yeah. So there's this concept. Okay, so let's follow that for just a second, just so we're all on the same page. So we understand why it's important to understand what winning looks like in as an organization. That might be strategic planning, those goals that bubble up to the surface. A lot of times organizations fail at that because they keep those to themselves and they don't filter those to the people that they're hoping will help them achieve that success. And so those are some tips, right? And you guys can feel free to add to this, but I would say one of the tips of strategic planning is to be able to, yes, come up with big picture goals, but then share the plan with everybody else. Is there another tip that you would add to that to help people understand what winning looks like?
Yeah, I mean, sharing the goals, of course, but then sharing them in each department and making sure the department knows where they fit in, and how they're going to contribute to those goals. Because I think if I looked at our team and I was like, hey, our goal is to have recurring revenue be 70% of our actual revenue, like 70%, you guys would be like, okay, that's a
Awesome.
good goal. How do I
Right.
help with that? Right? Like how do I help get us there? And I think it's important that everyone understand their part of it.
hmm Yeah, this is where they find value. Also, one, I mean, there's numerous benefits to this. If I can filter the goals of the strategic planning to the people that I'm hopefully helping, trusting to help me achieve these things. One, I'm showing a little bit of transparency. Two, I'm giving them a little bit of a peek of what's behind the curtain. Right. Three, I could take it to the next level and challenge. I like how Diana said, share it with each department, and this is what it means. What does it mean to your department? What does it mean to your role? But then also, and this is really what we do as an organization, then how do I engage them to help think of things that they could do that would help us organizationally achieve the overall plan? This is a good picture of what helping the organization define what winning looks like. But there's a whole nother side to what this conversation looks like. What if maybe you're a manager or a business owner right now and you're like, dang it, I've done that step. I've done the strategic planning. I've told everybody what the plan is. I've went to the departments. I've asked them for their help, and it's like I don't get any traction with them. They're not engaged in the process. They're not helping me move this ball. I've done all the things that you just told me to do, and they're not helping me move this ball. That's because I think we're missing another piece of what winning this whole thing looks like, Diana.
I was gonna say they're not helping you because they're doing their job.
Say more about that. What do you mean by that?
so, so I have a great example. When I was an admin, years and years ago, when everyone still printed things and it was like a paper kind of industry, I had a stack of filing that was, I kid you not, a foot high almost every day. And some days it would back up and it would be like 3 foot high stacks. I mean, like huge stacks of piling and of filing. And my boss one time was like, how do you know you've had a good week? And I was like, oh, when the stack is an inch high. And he was like, what
Yeah.
stack? And I was like, the stack of filing that I do. And he was like, that is not important. And I was like, then why do I have to do it? What do you mean it's not important? I've been filing like mountains of paper. What do you mean it's not important? It's important to me. It's part of my job. You've told me I must get this done. Why is this not important to you? And he was thinking it's not important because there's other overall objectives that I could be contributing to. But he didn't realize that, like, the day you don't do the filing, it's chaos, and like people need those files and people need them to be up to date, and I get yelled at if they're not up to date, and people are in the
Yeah.
stack looking for the stuff they need. It's total madness. So
Yeah.
Thank
There's
goodness
a
we're not.
manufacturing company that we worked with, and this reminds me of that too. And the first team that this lady at the front wanted to do, her idea was to limit the amount of, we need to reduce the amount of paperwork that we have to scan into the system. And that wasn't even on anybody's radar. They're like, why? Paperwork's important, so we can track. And she's like, yeah, but at the end of the line, when all the paperwork is passed through all the lines, it winds up on a desk. You know whose desk? My desk. And my job is I have to take each one of those and scan it. And I take each of those and scan it. And there's duplicates and there's stuff that doesn't matter. And there's stuff but that, to your point, that's her doing her job. And, you might look at that as, well, she's not looking at the big picture of the thing. Well, you know what? I don't want to burst your bubble, but very few people are looking at the big picture as much as you're looking at the big picture. Everybody, no matter where they work within the organization, within that role, has their own things that they're living in, right? They have their own responsibilities, they have their own duties, and they have their own noises or frustrations that might hinder them from doing the things that you're thinking they should be doing. And their initial response, Diana, you gave us we were just talking about it earlier, but you gave us a good example of what this might be. What if one of your objectives is world-class service? I love how you said that earlier. World-class service. Now, are you saying, Diana, this is a bad objective or a good objective? Why or why not?
Well, I think when I gave the example, I was like, I have seen organizations be like, we're going to be world class. And that sounds great. And I think there's I don't know, I think there's an inspirational note to that. And I think it's positive. And I think it's kind of cool to think about how you become a world class leader and organization. But then if you ask someone at the bottom, right, someone at the front lines, if they're, how are you a world-class organization? They'll be like, you know what? I'm working on it, but my computer is running Windows 8. So like
Right.
What do you want me to do with that? Right. So it's like, how do you be a world-class organization? What does that mean? What does that look like? How do I contribute? And am I supported enough to get the goal of being a world-class organization? Like, I can't support that if I'm not supported. Right? Didn't you say that earlier?
Yeah, I love that, Ryan. It's hard to be supportive if I don't feel supported. And that's true in life, right? It's hard for me to get behind the thing you want me to get behind if you're not also supporting the thing that I'm also trying to get behind. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard. We want to be an employer of choice. And a lot of times whenever organizations say that, they're talking about how to attract talent. But what you're missing are the people that you're already the employer of. And they're already there. Like, how do I be the employer of choice to those people? And so I guess what we're saying is I need to be able to understand or identify what winning looks like to an individual. Another way to say this is I need to understand what fuels the people around me to want to do awesome work. And it can't just be that they have a job because they have options. And it can't just be because they get paid to do a job, because they could, I don't care where you are, they could potentially make more money doing something else, maybe not even in the same line of work. We see that over and over. It's a competitive market as far as money is concerned right now, right? So it can't be that, it's got to be more. I think some of the organizations that are separating themselves are taking this piece to heart. And this might be something that you would have thrown away 5 years ago. You might have thrown this piece away, but it's not something that you can choose to throw away anymore. It's got to be one of those things. Okay, I need to identify what motivates my people to want to do outstanding work, and I need to see that. Otherwise, whatever you wrote on the strategic plan does not matter. It does not matter. It's going to be really hard to achieve that. Philip, I'll come to you and then I'll go to Diana.
Yeah, I think one of the examples of this too, we're speaking fairly recent to the whole Microsoft outage. And over the weekend, I have a friend who left Anchorage, Alaska on Thursday of last week. She did not get back into Springfield until Sunday night or Monday morning. Yeah, an amazing person. We're glad she's back in Springfield. But on it, there were a couple of videos I was watching of an airline, which is not known for being great with their service anyway. And the person videoing, there's an army of people. And I literally checked to see if this was real. It was not fake. It was not some kind of AI, like fake dude thing, right? It's Spirit. And someone has the microphone, the little lady at the desk, and she is just yelling through the microphone at these hundreds of people who have no airplane and no clue what's happening. And I don't think anyone, what does winning look like when the world's falling down? No one's going to have like a world-class customer service experience when a billion people can't use their computers. But their response, I think, came from a place where they already probably have not felt supported, especially in this moment. And the part of it that blew my mind, she then hands this over to a manager, someone who clearly has then been there longer. And you're like, oh, I'm sure in this video, the person that is going to say like, everyone, why we apologize. It's a stressful situation. Take care of yourself. We're going to, and she escalates it. The manager then says, everybody, shut up. I'm going to say this once and once only. We are all trying to figure this out. So I think an example, again, extreme situation, extreme time, but they already had the habit and the pattern where they were not engaging well and not being engaged. So I think when problems happened, it just was even more dramatic and climactic, right, than it would have been before. So that idea of support is important when things are good, especially when things are bad.
Yeah, that's an excellent example. I totally saw it this morning and I was shocked at how, just I don't know, everyone was stressed out in that situation and doing that made it worse. So I was just shocked at it. But I also think that there's this what does winning look like alignment, right? The executives at JetBlue or Spirit or whatever that was would absolutely be like, no, that's not our core values. Our core value is customer service and respect and all of these things, right? But it's the disconnect, right? If you say your core value is respect, but then you have a manager yelling at you every other day and treating you like crap, or you say your core value is teamwork and no one works as a team and everyone's out covering their own butts and there's this infighting or whatever, it creates all of this misalignment. And so then there's no winning. There's no winning there. It's people saying what they want and then nothing happening.
Yeah, that you can imagine their, corporate offices looking at that, and they're looking at the strategic plan, and it's going generate more revenue and world-class organization. They look at that, they're like, new plan, managerial training and leadership development, along with conflict resolution. You can't even really put that. You can't even really put that on those people, because I don't know anything about them, but I do know most organizations. This is an afterthought. This is an aside, but we do a lot of this. Have you properly trained your people to be able to kind of handle situations like that, right? Have you properly trained your people in order to be able to put them in situations where they can succeed? And this is a great illustration. If we want to follow that illustration, those people, if you ask them, we're like, what's your motivation today? What's winning look like for you today? Well, I'm just here to help the organization build more revenue and become a world-class association, right? That is not the answer that they will give. They're going to be like, I hope not to get cursed at by 10 a.m. this morning. That's what I'm hoping for, right? Or I'm hoping that everything just kind of goes smoothly. I'm hoping the system that you gave me to operate actually does what it's supposed to do, right? I'm hoping that the training that you provided me is enough for me to be able to overcome some obstacles today, that I don't have to escalate issues, right? That's where their motivation is. And some of these motivations might be different, right? Depending on your organization. If you just kind of pulse check this, and we could talk about it, like, how do I find out what's important to people then? Like, how do I find out, one, and then two, do I have to act on everything or not? Or how do I do that? It might be one of the motivations that we see right now, and we can maybe help you out. One of the motivations that fuel people right now, you'll see this, is like a flexible scheduling option, or a hybrid kind of option, more autonomy with their role. Instead of just doing what it is that you're telling me to do, I see a better way to potentially do it. Give me some autonomy to help you be awesome. Or are we putting people in boxes and saying, no, you do it like this because this is the way that we've done it? Is it that they value time, and this is going to blow some people's minds? Is it that they value more time with their family and friends than they do actually working for you and supporting the thing that you think that you tell them is important? I mean, that's crazy talk. But these are real people, and especially the younger generation. And Diana, I'm going to ask you to say this. You were talking about the Gen Z population there that's entering, and we can say what you learned about them, but we can that's easily transferable to other people, right? What's the thing that the Gen Z needs to understand?
Well, so I was reading a bunch of articles about Gen Z, and I personally love Gen Zs. I think they're going to change the world. I'm a big fan. Philip, are you Gen Z? Are you?
I'm like on the border. So,
Okay,
but I
you're
feel like
old.
I'm an elder Gen Z baby
Got it.
millennial, right?
Got it.
A big baby is really what I am.
A big baby.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. No.
There's the baby boomers and the big babies. No.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was saying earlier that I think our generation, I'm an geriatric millennial, pretty old millennial.
That's true.
I think our generation and older, we were like, oh my gosh, you have to work 60 hours a week. You got to pay your dues. You got to like get in there and prove yourself. And Gen Z is just sort of like prove yourself to who? Like we're working to prove ourselves to ourselves. Like this is not, I don't need to prove myself to some corporate fat cat. That's crazy. Like, and I personally love that message. Think it's great. And so I think they're just looking at work differently. And I think a lot of younger millennials are looking at work differently and sort of saying the way that the people before us did it, we're not doing that. And I think it's going to disrupt a lot of things, but I think it's also human nature, right? It shouldn't be that we're working 60 hours and avoiding the things that really matter in life. It should be the other way around. But yeah, it's a weird time. And so to attract that talent, you have to be willing to provide value for that talent that wants to stay there and do those things.
Yeah, you have to almost put yourself in that mindset too. Like depending on, it doesn't matter what generation, if you're a boomer, if you're a Gen X, if you're a millennial, it doesn't matter what generation you are. I have to kind of be able to speak the language of the other generations. And right now, the generation of it's not really the millennials anymore. They're kind of there and they're established and things. But the Gen Zs, right, they're coming into the workforce, I have to be able to speak their language. But not only that, I have to understand what's important and what they value. And I can do that by, doing some different things, and we'll get into that. Philip, what were you going to add?
Yeah, I was thinking just the difference of how you approach it, I guess, and leveling your expectations. I was just with a leadership group, and one of the managers essentially was asking this, like, hey, how can I help my individual people know what winning looks like? How can I engage them? And another leader said, one of the questions that helps me is just to say, what are your expectations from me as a manager to you, employee? And it doesn't mean that they're true. It doesn't mean that they're accurate. If the employee is like, I want you to guarantee my happiness, like that would be an inappropriate expectation, but that could at least lead to engaging to find better expectations and the reverse. And I was thinking back to my very very first job, 16 years old at a grocery store. My Gen X manager was like, look, this was my training. It was great. He's like, look, if you work hard, I'll work hard for you. But if you don't, then it won't work. And then kind of this back and forth, and this is it. If you work hard, I will support you more than anyone else. And like fairly shortly after that, I had a trip that came up, a trip to Haiti, another trip to another thing, like living high school life. And every time Dave would say, he finally just stopped. He was like, you get whatever you want because you work harder than anyone else. And he said it in the warehouse, which was terrible, right? Because now the whole team is like, this stupid little like preppy polo wearing stupid doopy dude is getting time off whenever he wants it. But literally, I would ask, and Dave would change other people's schedules for me. So I think the difference of also what I love about that question for Gen Z and any generation, like whether you don't know your value or if you do, especially how you come and then I think engage it with other people. Like what that team culture was missing that I had, it built a great work ethic, but at the expense of a team dynamic. And I think in some ways it's the opposite for some people just entering the workforce, where it's like really more about me, could be, than about the team. And that's one thing I appreciate about our team. Like we all really care about each other's families and work. And so there's different times we'll take on more load at work so that you can go and do this amazing adventure with family or whatever that might be for a day, for a week. And then we kind of divvy it up differently to support that.
It's funny you said, living the crazy high school life of going to Haiti and whatnot. I'm like,
What high school did you go to?
Yeah, and I've seen your calendar. You've already been to Scotland, and I saw you earmarked Spain and Portugal for the end of the year. So you're still living that crazy high school life.
Apparently, yeah. Work for days.
Thanks, Dave. I love that thought. I love that thought though, being able to understand. I think Dave's onto something. Like if you work hard, then I'm going to totally support you and work hard for you too. That's not an ultimatum. That's life, right? We want to support the people that support us. And I think that's true. Like the people that advocate for us, we want to go to bat for those people and advocate for them too. We just naturally have that response of those people. And this is true at work. I think if you view this as, okay, so I have a team full of people, and right now I know their names. I know a little bit about their family life. Beyond that, I'm not 100% sure what drives them. Like some days they're good and some days they're not good. That's what I know, but that's people, right? And maybe that's not entirely true. Maybe there are some things that you could do to be able to find out a little bit more about them. Again, not because you're a people-y person. Maybe you're hearing this and you're going, this sounds nauseating. Why do I care about that? Why do I have to go the extra step? But not because you're a people-y person, but because I know that if I can relate to them and understand maybe what their struggles are, maybe even help them overcome some of those struggles that they have, they're going to work harder for me in the long run. Like that's that they're supporting you if you're supporting them. And that's the same thing. This is bigger and beyond just the strategic goals of the organization. I'm not saying they don't care about the goals and they don't care about the organization, but if they don't feel supported, they're a lot less likely to care about those goals that you are trying to shoot for because you're not meeting their basic needs that they feel like are basic and that they have at the same time. In fact, some of you, and you don't have to raise your hand to this, but some of you aren't even approachable to discuss those things. That's really putting you behind the eight ball as far as this talent is coming into the workforce there too. Diana, were you going to add something?
Well, I was just, as we're talking about this, I was sort of sitting here thinking like, well, what if I am a middle manager and I have my bosses telling me that winning looks like increasing revenue, but then I have this team that's like, no, winning is if the stack of filing is this high, right? How do you bridge that gap? What do you do with that?
I think there's two ways. I think there's two thoughts to this, and you guys can add to this too. But I think there's two thoughts to this. One, they need to really understand what that goal increasing revenue even means, right? What does that mean? And why are you telling me that? Like what am I doing? Are you telling me am I failing at that right now? Or am I like how do I help achieve that thing in the first place? So one, it's an understanding of what that goal means, but then two, it's like, okay, so knowing what it means, now that we have that kind of transparency there, it's like, what do you think you need from me in order to be able to help you be successful in helping us achieve the thing? And some of that might be, the thing that keeps me up at night right now is that I'm not able to get my daughter from preschool every day, and she's got to go to whatever daycare for the last hour of the day, and she's coming home, she really hates it, and kids are being mean to, whatever. Those are the things that distract me from doing a good job. And maybe you get creative with a schedule, and then they're like, oh man, that's awesome, thank you so much. Now I can focus on the thing that you're asking me to focus on. Now we have, we talk about this idea of getting weird in the workplace, weird in a positive way. This is an example where we've got to get a little bit weird in the workplace. We got to be a weirdly awesome place to be able to work. And part of that might be some of the conversations that we need to have with our people to understand what drives them, what gives them fuel. Philip.
Yeah, a good weird in that setting, if you're that middle manager, could be to pull people in. And I think we've said this, but to not assume that they know what revenue means. And I think one of the biggest keys, which we spoke to earlier, is if you don't have that department specific clarity on how we specifically actually make a bigger difference for, this big, beautiful strategic plan we have, it's as a middle manager, then asking for more clarity from like your folks above, then, okay, like, well, hey, what are numbers saying for this role in this group of people then? And, for this admin person that's trying to do all these files, if there's this disconnect between them and revenue, I think it could be then pulling your whole team together to really walk through that. And not that you do that every single time, but if they just have no clue, then you got to help give them a clue. And if as a middle manager, you're like, I also don't have a clue. I was just told to raise revenue, but I don't even know. It's like, well, then you then ask the questions to get the clarity. Because I think people are often afraid of looking stupid or looking incompetent. But time and time again, I think we see, especially after we encourage people to do this, when you're the person who asks those clarifying questions, you actually become a conduit of information and you help set the table. And it makes you much more influential. So if you can ask those questions, it'll help both sides of that story.
I like the thought of that. I like the thought of that too. Diana?
Well, I was just going to say that I think it's important for managers to know not just what their people are doing, but who their people are, right? Like, and maybe some employees get different benefits than others, not like real benefits, but you know what I mean? Like we shift a schedule for one employee, or we, provide a different chair for a different employee because I don't know, like you just do different things to make different people happy and focus on what they actually want. And you also have to know their job so that you can say, yeah, you know what? A good day is when the filing is this high. And also, can we make sure that we're focusing on this thing this quarter? That's all that is. Like, you just have to know. And I think you have to be vulnerable. I think you have to be honest. I think you have to be open. And I think you have to genuinely want to know what your people do and who they are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And this is maybe taking us to that place. So how do I get to know who the people are? And then, what are some of the things that I could potentially do? And it might be just be as simple as being able to set up a regular communication cadence with them, but you're not there to talk about the performance of the organization and things. You're trying to find out some different things about them. You might be asking some vulnerable questions like, hey, me as your manager, what are the things that you like about how you're being managed? What are the things you don't like about how you're being managed? Not that I have to change everything, but if we're not even, asking the question, which might blow your mind that you would even ask that question, because 10 years ago, that's not why would I ask that question, right? But now I've got to be able to identify, how do they want to be led? These people that I'm in charge of leading, how do they want to be led? How do they want to be communicating with? What are the things that frustrate them about work? What are the things they enjoy about their job? That type of thing. And then I have to take that information back and I have to go, okay, so I have so-and-so, and you're looking at them. I like to equate it to like players on a baseball field. They have different roles. They have different responsibilities. They have different skill sets. They have different jobs. And I look at them as different individuals. And you're looking at them going, okay, so this person is X, Y, or Z. How do I manage this person? This person is X, Y, or Z. How do I manage this person? And you know what? If you're going, this sounds like a big task. This is why managing is difficult. This is why managing people is hard, because they bring different personalities and they bring different emotions and they bring different requests and they bring different skill sets to the table. And it's your job to be able to help determine the best way to be able to set them up for success in that role. But so if we're talking about, that's a step of being able to gather information. Do you guys have any other thoughts on being able to gather information, or what I would do with that information once I have gathered it? If I was trying to win this game, if I am speaking to those managers or owners?
I think there's a lot. Like, we could talk about this for days, right? We could talk about it for days. I think the key, though, is that what you started with is that winning for them doesn't look like winning for you. And different roles have different versions of winning. And to win the overall thing, you all have to be going towards this one thing, but that's not the one thing that everyone's thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. That's a good thought. And maybe that's a good bow on the entire conversation. Just first of all, recognizing that not everybody cares about the same things that you care about, and not everybody cares as much about the thing that you care about, right? And in order for them to also care about the thing that you care about, you have to care about them on an individual level at the same time. Winning looks differently. Find out what winning looks like for your people so they can help you achieve the overall success that you are looking for. So hopefully you enjoyed that topic there. Hopefully you enjoyed that podcast. If you have other tips or things that maybe you're doing that you feel like is helping you win this game already, dang, we'd love to hear that. We'd love to hear something that maybe you've implemented that you're like, you know what, I recognize that, and this is something that we've done to be weirdly awesome at an individual level, and we've gotten great feedback about it. We love those success stories like that. I might even talk about you on stage one day. I love to share those different stories. So feel free to share the podcast and share those tips with us. And guys, we hope you enjoyed this topic, and we will be back soon with another topic. Thank you all. Love you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the People Centered Podcast. We are so grateful for you joining us every week. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Also, feel free to share on your social media with everyone that you know. It really does help us. If you would like to contact us, I have put our information in the show notes. Please reach out anytime. We love hearing from you. We will be back next week with a new topic. Until then, be well and lead well.